Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I even go any further, if you're a longtime listener, you should recognize our guest here. We have Corinne back on the podcast. It's been almost a year. I mean, by the time this will get released, it'll be pretty close to a year. And I mean, she's on an entire different continent than when we last talked to her. And a lot has gone on in her life. So the moment I saw one of her last posts, I said, hey, she needs to come back on this podcast because a lot of my guests have gone through a little bit of change in a year, but not many I don't think have gone through as much as she's gone through. So I think it would be a really great conversation. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Thank you so much for coming back on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. So, yeah, thanks.
Absolutely. Well, just to get things started, I mean, yeah, like I said, you're on the opposite side of the planet, basically. How have you adjusted to moving from London, from the UK to South Korea?
It has been interesting, but it's been pretty fun. Before we came over here, we did go to the States for about 2 weeks to visit my husband's family, and then we came over here. Um, it was kind of crazy when first got here because I competed in several competitions. But for the most part, we felt very welcome here. The people are very, very nice, and even the American people are as well. Like when we both felt like in England, the like welcome of being there was very like you're not welcome here, and then and just the Americans just didn't really seem very happy there. But here, it's just kind of been like completely different, and it kind of was like, oh, like, okay. So just like that aspect in itself has been really kind of fun.
I've always thought that would be awkward. Like if in the US they had like soldiers from other countries just like stationed here, and then just that whole thing. But trust me, I've dealt with too many people in the UK, and just that stiff British upper lip too, where you're just like, okay, it's
Mhm.
hard to break through with those type of people. But and I mean, just so much to talk about with the transition. But I mean, I'm very hungry myself right now, so I have food. I got food on the brain right now. So that whole cuisine change of going from one culture's food to a totally different culture's food, and I know being a bodybuilder, you probably don't indulge too much in that type of food. But how have you adjusted to that just whole food wise change?
At first, it was kind of hard because you're getting used to a new place, um, and I was in prep. I told myself I got to compete in the Arnold UK, and we moved during that prep. So it was a little bit nuts, and the military base grocery store wasn't always like stocked up with stuff. And of course, going off base was like, oh my gosh, what am I buying? And like rice cakes are like one of my favorite things, and I could not find rice cakes anywhere. And this is going to sound terrible, but I thought that like maybe rice cakes would be something that I would find like maybe everywhere here. And they're not like that sounds so bad. um, um, I
I would have
thought
thought the
that,
same thing, by the way. So I'm just pointing that out.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, but like I couldn't find them anywhere, and it was very challenging. But once like we kind of learned a little bit, I learned how to use Google Translate, which I had never used before. So I walk around the Korean grocery stores with my phone on Google Translate all the time. That has been really helpful. Um, and like understanding and knowing how to do macros a little bit better and being a little bit more confident with it, that helped too. However, some things don't really scan in all that well when they're in a different language, but some of them do. So I think it just kind of came with experimenting and doing my best to go with the flow, which I'm not great at, but it hasn't been too bad. And now since I'm kind of in an improvement season, it's like I can enjoy some of those things, and it's been kind of fun.
Well, we talked about the time difference before we started recording this. How long did it take your sleep to fully adjust to just this whack time difference that is like I can't imagine people, because I know a friend that travels to Australia frequently on business, and I just can't imagine how they function.
So I I know when we got to England, it was terrible to transition, but coming here, I really don't remember it being that bad. Like I know that we had slept on the plane. I think we arrived here mid afternoon. I really don't think it was that bad. Like we were tired. Um, yeah, I don't. I don't think it was that. I don't think it was that bad going from because we went from Washington State to Korea. So I think the hardest thing was making sure that our flight was going to go through because we had a military flight and the first flight got delayed by a day. So we had to spend the night in a hotel. I think that was like honestly like the hardest part of the unknown of like, okay, when are we actually going to get there? The report date was one day, but are we going to make it there on time? Like, so I think that was actually the hardest, but the time difference hasn't been hard like when we first got here. So
I'm only asking that because we got daylight savings time coming up this weekend, and for me,
mm,
that 1 hour messes me up more than anything. So I
oh
can't
yeah.
imagine. I can't imagine any longer period of how that really happens. But I mean, being and moving just all the way across the planet and doing all the stuff that you've done, how did you stay focused on your bodybuilding? How did you stay focused just on your fitness lifestyle as well? Because it's a lot of stuff to take in when you really consider all the stuff that's happened to you.
Yeah. I decided that when I got invited to the Arnold UK, that I spoke to my husband and I was going to go to it, and we knew that we were going to be PCSing. I was like, okay, I am. I feel like this is going to be hard, but I want to do it for myself. When am I going to get this opportunity again? And what if I could do it while doing this crazy move and kind of like document it as best as I could, which I'm not super great at, but getting better.
Hey, everyone, go follow her YouTube channel. I've watched her videos. They're actually really informative and good.
Thank you. And like try to just kind of share the experience because I think a lot of times we let life stop us,
Mhm.
and I have let different things in life stop me that I'm working on now, um, to not allow me to go for my goals. And so I was just like, I don't want this to stop me. Like I hear clients say like, oh, I have kids. Oh, it's spring break. Oh, it's summertime. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. We're going on holiday. But you can still like be healthy while doing that. And I feel like I have proven that with like we stayed with my husband's sister for 2 weeks. I worked out in a variety of different gyms. I ate out at restaurants. I didn't know what I was going to be eating sometimes. Sometimes we just had a microwave, and sometimes I had no idea what the food actually was. So I really just wanted to prove that it was possible to do it. And then kind of just show that I could do it. And I think like once you make the decision once, there's really no going back because once you decide, like you're dedicated and you're going to be disciplined about it. And my husband was he backed me on it, so we made sure we found a gym. My sister-in-law was actually really supportive, and so was her husband, which was really cool because I haven't spent a lot of time with them. And she let us use her car. She's like, if you want to meal prep, like you can use the kitchen, like anything that you want. And I was like, I feel like I hardly know you, but I love you and appreciate you so much. And we just had like a great time there too. So I think it was just like, let's decide that we're going to do it. And I really feel like that was all a team effort with my husband, which I don't give him nearly enough credit for because he's so patient with everything. So,
The unsung heroes of the podcast, I've always said, those are the people that, they deserve the gold medals and the ribbons and stuff for a lot of the patience that they have. But it's a fascinating thing when I've talked to people that have lived in other countries and then come back to their home country. It's a little bit of a culture shock, like that a lot of people don't understand. What was that like for you, with those 2 weeks coming back to the States after having lived in England for a while? Was it hard to readjust to things, or were you just like, okay, I'm at home now. It's fine now.
my thoughts were like, oh man, like the United States has changed so much. Like we were over in England, and as much as it was hard to adjust to England and the people there, like I have friends there that I truly love, and they're like, England is familiar. Like right now, England is more familiar than the States to me. And even though I haven't been there now for like 8 or 9 months, but um, it was different because I just feel like the United States, it's so focused on like the bigness of everything and everything that you have, and getting more of it. And everywhere we went, it was like there was a shopping mall and food and that, and I was just like, wow, like I knew this before, but like I was in Montana before that, and then before that I was in California, kind of like in the we kind of lived out of town a little bit, so like we were I felt like we were in like a city, but we were in still another military town, but it was so big, and I just it's like, man, I just feel like it's so different and I'm not used to it. And this is what I would have loved when I was younger, like more going on, more stuff to do. And now I'm like, oh, I must be getting old because I just don't really care.
I'm starting to get to that point too, where it's like it gets to a certain point at night, and you're just like, just go to bed, do something. I know the weekends are a little bit different from that, but I'm slowly trying to maintain a little bit of my youth that I have left. But I
There
mean,
you go.
we got to talk because, like I said, you have put on a lot of size, at least in my opinion. Now, what has been one aspect of your physique that you think that you've improved on the most since we last talked almost a year ago?
I would like to say my shoulders. That's one of the things I just really feel like I've been focusing on. However, that does come with like eating food, resting properly, and making sure that you're recovering and getting all the nutrition in. So, um, that's really what I've been focusing on. When I look at like pictures over time, I'm like, okay, I think they definitely have. And then like from shorter periods of time, I'm like, oh, they still look the same. Like I just did my check-in the other day and I'm doing this like trials through like a supplement company and I'm like, "Oh, I think I'm gaining muscle and to gain muscle it's really hard and this the period of time that we're looking at is like for 12 weeks. So, I'm not going to put on a lot of muscle in that time, but I'm like, "Oh, I think I'm gaining muscle." And then I put on like my competition heels and my suit and I'm like, oh, I still look so small. And I told my husband, he's like, well, you are small. And I was like, I know, but like, I'm really working on this. I'm really trying to like do things differently. So I'd like to say my shoulders are, some of my clothes are a little bit tighter up top. So that's like, I think the best indication. And, you know, when we look at our own pictures, we kind of play tricks with our mind. So I'm like, I'll just go by how my clothes fit me, maybe for that.
Well, speaking about experimentation, you have dabbled into CrossFit a little bit now. How has that been for you?
It's fun. I've done CrossFit before, like a long time ago, and I knew that I would enjoy it, but I also knew that I'd be like, okay, how do we get better at this? How do we compete at this? I like kind of knew that was going to happen, and I was going to try not to let that happen. But 2 weeks after I started going to the fundamentals class, they had this the open games start, and I asked like one of the ladies, I was like, so how do I do this? Like what do I need to do? So I joined it not knowing what some of the movements were and yeah, it was really fun. It's so funny because you can be in such great shape doing one thing, but you can be complete like crap in something else. Like I could run for a long time, but I can maybe only swim a lap across the pool, you know? So CrossFit is just it's been fun. It's given me a little bit of a community, which I'm not like super great at. I feel like I'm just not really great at having like friends these days. I'm kind of more on my own. But the women there are so nice and really encouraging. And like when you look at a CrossFit athlete, they're so like powerful and they have like explosiveness within their movements. And in the fitness category, you have to have that in like your jumps and you just want to have that strength. And I thought that maybe that would be a good thing to kind of complement my other training as long as I don't like overdo it and not eat enough because that's like the biggest struggle for me is to make sure that I am eating enough. Otherwise, I'm not going to have my shoulders that I want to have, right? So I've really enjoyed that, and I'm looking forward to kind of seeing what else I can learn there and how I can make it work with the bodybuilding aspect.
So I'm just gonna tell you this real quick. I went to one CrossFit class myself. I'm 6'3", and I tried kipping pull-ups. Can you guess what happened?
Uh, it was hard.
My chin hit the bar.
Oh, like yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
after that I was like, and I almost bit off a little bit of my tongue. Luckily, it was like it was super close to that. So after I was like, yeah, I'll just stick to my regular gym workouts. But CrossFit, yeah, I've always found that body type is so ridiculous too. Ridiculous in a good way, but like it's just like
Mhm.
just how defined and how just blocky everything really is that it's always funny though when you see like a CrossFit person try to do like bodybuilding poses, their muscles just aren't like bodybuilding muscle. Like it's always funny just how the body adapts to different workouts and how it just doesn't look like what you would normally assume like a CrossFitter to look like if they're doing like any bodybuilding pose. I've always found that to be the most fascinating part about that.
Yeah, it is kind of cool how your body adapts. It's quite an adaptable thing that we have.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely ridiculous. So, I mean, you went to the UK, Arnold. I mean, it's ridiculous. That's insane. How did that go? What was that whole experience like?
I will say that one was probably the hardest as far as like time
Yeah.
difference. I really struggled to like sleep, but it was really cool because my coach was there because she's from the UK and I absolutely love her. My self confidence just all throughout, like I don't know, it's just been like a roller coaster ride there. But um, I I really kind of had a goal last year of just wanting to like do my best. And I was collecting points to try to go to the Olympia. And I was so upset at first because I was given fourth or fifth place, and fifth place is like the magic number that I kept getting, but that was also last place because there were only five in the competition. So that just kind of like set on me. I'm like, oh, I just don't want to get last place. If I got fourth place, it's like fine, but and that would be like a win for me. And I should have been thinking of having the whole experience should have been a win. Um, and but it did turn out after we looked at the scorecard that I did actually get fourth place. They just scored some stuff wrong, which was kind of cool. But I got to room with my friend Tara, who won the competition, and she's just such a nice lady. And the other girls I competed
Wait,
with.
how did they score your card wrong?
So, if I remember correctly, there was a tie, but I had a better routine score, and so I should have gotten fourth place. So we got that corrected, and that helped me get a little more points for the Olympia. Um, but yeah, so it was actually really fun. A couple of the other girls were really nice. I ended up getting a free shirt, and we got like a discount on like some of the like super unhealthy like donuts and cookies because we were there forever. But it was a fun time, and like just being able to compete under like the Arnold like brand,
Mhm.
I feel like is really cool. And I was so excited when I got invited to it. I remember messaging one of my other friends that had also got invited but shouldn't end up competing. Being like, oh my gosh, we're going to go to this. I'm super excited. And I feel like it was like the first like big competition I was really kind of excited about.
Oh my God, I almost had a heart attack there because I thought for a second that I got it wrong and I might have said like the UK Olympia, or I might have got that mixed up between the Olympia and the Arnold. So like again, everyone, if you don't know, I'm a little bit asleep. I'm a little bit sleepy right now, so I was thinking, I was like, "Oh God, did I get that wrong? Where I got the name wrong?" So okay, I'm feeling better now. That actually woke me up a little bit more now, though, thinking like, "Oh my God, did I get that wrong?" So if anyone, yeah, like I said, if you see me, I'm not dozing off yet, and I'm not going to because she's a very nice guest to have on. So it's not, it's not gonna happen. But yeah, okay. See, I'm more alert now, so that actually helped. That got my attention going more. But I mean, as you've, have you mixed up your workouts at all, or how have you mixed things up as this year's gone on?
So at the end of last year, we were really kind of staying on track for getting to the Olympia. Once I moved to Korea, I still competed in three other competitions, I believe. I think competed in okay, maybe two. So I competed in the Arnold UK, and then I competed at the Europa Pro because I wanted to earn those points. And then I competed in the Olympia. I want to say there was one more, but I can't remember. I competed a lot last year. So from there, we just kind of held our like routine. We choreographed a new routine for the Olympia, and then now we're more in a building phase and trying to put on a little bit of size. So but I'm also working on a few like other things like nutritionally and like my relationship with food and stuff like that. So my coach wants me to do what is going to make what's basically going to make me happy right now. And I have a program that I'm following, and my coach has just been incredibly patient and amazing and supportive of some of the things I'm working on. And I feel like I'm in like a good spot. Like I don't know when I'm going to be getting on stage again, or if it'll be like this year or later. I'm really not sure. We're just focusing on a few things, and I feel really just appreciative with how everything's going. My workouts have been very focused, and I've been trying to make them intense. I'm tracking them now and being patient. Normally, when I go in, I'm like, oh my God, I got to get my workout done. That person's on my piece of equipment, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, okay, like there's other things that you can do for this exercise, like writing my stuff down. And I've had several people ask if they can work out with me. And normally I'm like, no. But
That's me 100%. Me is always like, stay the hell away from me. Don't even look at me. But that's just that's my time, and I understand. But like, yeah, so I'm one of those people myself, so I understand that completely.
yeah, but I kind of was like, okay, well, what if I like switched my perspective? Like, you always learn something new about somebody else, or maybe you can learn something, or maybe you can help them, or whatever. So, and that's actually kind of been a new perspective that I've taken on in the past like week and a half. So that's
Mhm.
like super new. Um, but I've really just been loving like how I'm doing my workouts and focusing, and I really feel like I'm getting stronger. I don't really feel like you can see it, but um, yeah, we're like
You have a better
trying to
chest
help
split
them.
than I've ever had, Corinne. Okay, and you're in a gaining phase. Okay, so that's BS. Yeah.
Well, thank you, thank you. So I really like where I'm going and wherever that may be, but I like the path that I'm on.
And what I've seen some of your videos where you're deadlifting and you're doing squats and stuff, and yeah, it's better than the last time I had you on. I can tell you that. I remember that. So it's, yeah, you've definitely made some progress in that. But is the gym culture a little bit different in the military base that you're on right now as opposed to the one that you were in London? Because I've always been fascinated by how the gym culture is different in other places of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So in England, I felt like um, people did not like to go to the gym on on the military base. There wasn't a lot of gym culture. There was also COVID thrown in the middle of that, but I just don't really think like the gym was people's priority there, or like health was a big priority. Maybe it was, but it just didn't seem like it when I compare it to here. Like the gym here, there's always people in it. Like there's never a time when I'm in there and it's like empty. Like in England, many times you would go into the gym, it's like, oh, nobody's here. And it's not necessarily an odd time for people not to be there. Like it's a typical time where there'd be a lull in the gym, but not where nobody else is in the gym. So here I feel like it's very busy. Lots of people like to do it. The CrossFit community is really big, and they also do. They just seem like they host a lot more events. Like there seems to be like a 5K once a month or every other month, and also the director who runs everything is a pretty cool guy. So when you have like somebody who's pretty positive and kind of brings the energy, I think that really helps. Um, but they have like posters up of everything that's going on, and it just seems like more of a welcoming vibe where people would want to get involved, whereas in England it just was like seemed like maybe the bare minimum. Oh, I feel like I'm talking so badly. Like I had a really good experience in England, but like this is
You
just
said you felt more at home in England than you did in the States when you came
I
back. So yeah.
facts. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I honestly, I never write questions down for these unless it's like a big one. And I had to write this down because like I said, I've watched your YouTube videos. And one thing that I love that you talk about is just the mindset that you sometimes have with all the self doubt sometimes. And especially in bodybuilding, it's just going to go along with it. And just how the mind is such a powerful thing, and how just you've had your own struggles with it. And believe me, I've had my own struggles as well. But being that you move to a completely different place where you might not know as many people, how do you deal with maintaining that sort of positive outlook when you're in a new place, you don't know anyone really other than your husband and he might be away at times? How do you deal with not having those negative thoughts and working on, like not being so hard on yourself?
Um, I think like the negative thoughts are always going to be there. It's just kind of how you perceive them. That's something my husband he always reminds me of, like the perspective of things.
Mhm.
Um, I've really tried to flip things around. Like it's so easy to get caught up in the negative and let it just bog you down and want to stay in bed. But I've never wanted to like. There's so much to experience in the world, and when I remind myself of that, like what are we doing just sitting here? Like let's get out and do stuff. I think the other thing is that I've done a lot of fake it till you make it. Like I'm just gonna pretend that I'm happy today. I'm just gonna pretend like I know how this gym runs, and I just
I've been
you
guilty of
know
that for years.
yeah. But the funny thing is that when you do that whole fake it till you make it, and you stay constant and almost disciplined about it, like you do actually become more confident and more positive. And I think like I use that a lot, but I don't want to be the fake part anymore. Like I want to be positive and I mean, once you make it, you always make another goal. So it's like you never actually make it, but just always moving in a forward direction because like there's nothing really all that exciting about like hiding under the covers. You're just basically watching your life from the outside in and there's so much to see in the world that the world has to offer you and you have so much to offer the world.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great way to look at it. And I mean, with the physique that you have and the look that you have, are the reactions different in Korea than they were in the UK? Like if you're just like if you go off base, like you said, to go and get snacks, or the looks. Well, first of all, the looks are going to be different because you're not Korean, first of all. But like, are the reactions to your physique different than they were in the UK or different in the States?
I don't remember getting many comments or anything in the UK. I just remember one time in the UK, I'd come home after a competition. It was summertime and I was in shorts, you know, you're all tan or whatever. And the only thing someone ever said was like, where did you get that spray tan? But over here, I have had some of the Korean ladies that are on base. They're like, wow, you have really nice shape. Like, good job. That like really encouraging. And then in the gym working out, I've had a lot of people like make comments and actually come up and ask for advice, which I was always like, oh my God, like why I would never think that someone would want to come up to me and ask me for advice because I just don't have that like I feel like I just don't have that like confidence of like why would someone come up to like that like little old me like why would someone come up and ask me for advice, but it's happened several times and I've had people ask if they like I said can work out with me and it's kind of like blown my mind and at first I was like this is my time, like why are you bothering me, but now it's like well, I actually have like a service that I can provide by like helping people by just being a nice person and listening to their questions. And I don't have a regular job. Like I have the time. Like I can finish my workout. Like let me listen to their question, and hopefully it will help them, and it'll like help me develop my like either social skills or maybe how I explain something better rather than like stumbling over my words. I don't know. So um, that's kind of been the reaction that I've got from like people on base and off base. I mean, I've never had anyone ask me like off base anything, but on base, I have had some of the locals be like, "Oh wow, like you look really great." Um, yeah,
I
like that.
consider it to be just like working out with like social skills, where the more you do it, the better you get at it. And it's just, believe me, I didn't become this talkative over. Well, I'm gonna be honest. I came out of the womb probably reciting stuff, honestly. But like, it's
Love
still
it.
a skill that you sort of have to cultivate, a little bit as well. But you mentioned that you sometimes track your workouts, and I do got to ask because you said your shoulders have been the one thing that you think you've improved on the most. What do you do for shoulders? Because if I were to have written down, like, whenever I ask my guests what's the one body part that took off and really lag behind, for women, shoulders is by far the number one thing that they're like, I really need to work on my shoulders. So what have you done? Because I will get killed in the comments down below and people from messaging me being like, okay, she said her shoulders have really improved and you didn't ask her how she did it. So I just for my sake, so I don't get hounded by people.
Yeah. So what for what I have on my program right now, my shoulder I feel like it's very hard, but we have cable side raises and front raises, and then after I do the 4 sets, I have to do oh, what do you call them? Drop sets. So start at like my heaviest, do as many as I can, and then go like down the rack. And I feel like that is like, oh my gosh, like really, really hard. And on the cable, I can only do like 7.5 pounds. Because you know, when you have your cables, you got the tension going up and going down. And of course, you could like slam it down, but you know, the time under tension is what's really going to help build. So I'm trying to come down slowly. So I have those in my workouts. I have shoulder presses, but at an incline. But I've also added in on my leg day just for fun. I do 5 sets of 5 heavier dumbbell overhead press. Mostly of like what I could do on my own because I don't really ever have a spotter. Sometimes I do, That's the other really cool thing. On my shoulder day, I've found a friend that she really enjoys working out as well. And we've started doing that day together, and we've been able to spot each other. So I think having that spotter is beneficial. And by having other people who have wanted to like work out with me, that's like kind of another cool benefit. Like I could maybe go heavier on some stuff because they can help me, and then vice versa. But I've been doing those. And um, what else? Really, I think just really focusing on when I am doing shoulders. Like you put your mind in your muscle, and there's like science behind all that stuff about how like when you do that, it helps like with like the muscle growth. I don't understand it, but I just think of like a brain sitting on my shoulder. Like let me put my,
Yep.
let me put my mind in my muscle.
Oh, I've done that too, absolutely. And I mean, you brought up time under tension. I don't think we brought this up last time. How long did it take for you to develop a good overall time under tension? Because that is the number one thing that I try to instill in people when they first get started working out. After a while, after they get through some of the basics, is focus on that time under tension. Like you don't have to be lifting the heaviest. It's just all about how much you get out of the reps, really. So, how long before you really think you developed a good sense of time under tension? Because I've talked to some people where it takes them years.
Yeah, I agree with that. I I don't really feel like I got like really serious about my workouts. Well, I've always been like serious about my workouts, but just applying the knowledge that I have about like working out and fitness, I don't really feel like I've given it a genuine, really good, honest shot more until recently. And after the Olympia, the Olympia was just a different experience for me, and it just kind of changed my whole mindset on some stuff. Um, but applying the knowledge that I have, I feel like it's taken a long time. So I think I got more serious about bodybuilding in 2019, but I would say it's definitely gone up several levels from there. So yeah, several years to like understand that and apply those concepts, and even to just to um, be confident enough to apply those concepts. Because sometimes when you're in the gym, like even though nobody else is really paying attention, sometimes you think they are, and like if you're doing something differently than how other people are doing it, or how like maybe the normal person would do it, they're not like doing the time under tension thing. So people will be like looking at you funny, and then you get a complex and all of this. But like if you don't really worry about it, you just do your jam. Like uh yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it took quite a while to develop that and apply that skill.
And I mean, going from a full year when you competed in so many shows like this last year, do you think that when it comes around showtime this year, you'll be sort of antsy about it, or do you think that you're just gonna finally like tell yourself like, hey, you know what, I might need time off, regardless if you compete or not that year? How do you think you're gonna deal with mentally when that showtime comes around? Being that like last year, you competed in so many shows.
I don't know. So it's so funny. I'm in my check-in this last week. I told my coach, I was like, okay, so I'm considering a competition here for bikini because why not compete in Korea? Like that would be so cool. And but even like thinking about it, I kind of like started to get like a tiny bit of like anxiety about like dieting and like I mentioned, just really working on that like relationship with food because it was terrible and still kind of is, but it's a lot better. And she was like, well, like that would mean dieting, and that would mean like really not focusing on what you're focusing on now. And we really need to fix this. So I'm just going to tell you this anorexia and bulimia, eating disorder stuff. And honestly, like I want people to know because I know like I'm not the only
Oh,
one.
you said that for your backstory for the first podcast we were on, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I can't
yeah.
remember. Um, so we're like really working on that, and I've been tomorrow. It'll be like 35 days, like no binging and purging for the first time ever in my life. The longest time before that was like 13 days. So the Olympia had so much to do with that. But anyways, that's like such side note. I just feel like I was a little bit like anxious, even like typing that because I was like nervous about what she was gonna say. And when she first had said like, well, that would mean this, I was like, ugh, she just doesn't want me to compete. And then I was like, no, Corinne, stop, stop. Like let's think about.
What if that was her actual thing though, where she just didn't want you to compete?
I don't know. I don't know. But she's been so supportive on everything. So I was like, all right, like I just won't even think about it. It's just kind of in the back of my mind. There's some later in the year, so we'll see. So so I don't know. I immediately got like anxious, like thinking about it. But I have all of the competitions, both bikini and fitness, written on a calendar. So already looked.
What? So your husband just looks at that as like, oh God, are we gonna do all this again?
Yeah, he's probably like, you just do your thing. But like I think the other thing was that we spent like a lot of money last year, and once we moved over here, I didn't really have like any income. So that really kind of hit us a little bit, and especially when we went to the Olympia because he came with me, which was so cool. But it was a lot of money. So and he just reminds me like that was like a really cool opportunity though. So it was totally worth it. Um and it's starting to get a little bit more clients now. So that's like the other thing I have in my mind. Like, I really don't want to put us like our finances really aren't strained, but I feel like they are because I'm not really making a lot of money. But I don't want that to be a stressor for me because that turns into money just turns into like a huge stressor for me. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like we can't do this. We have to buy all the discount groceries and blah, blah, blah. My husband's like, Dawn, like, no, please buy fresh vegetables, not the half rotten ones.
I've worked 120 hours of overtime so far this year alone, so I understand that when you're talking about,
Yes.
yeah. So it's, yeah. I'm not gonna get too much into that because like I'm already like just I don't understand why I've done it that much, but yeah. So I totally get that myself, but we do gotta talk about cardio because I talked about last time it's the bane of my existence, but has your cardio changed at all this last year? Or are you still doing as much as you were before? Or where's it at?
I'm I don't really have any cardio on my plan. So yeah, I don't really have any. Sorry, but I'm doing CrossFit. So CrossFit Fit is very high intensity and they're like short bursts. So like I had like a 6 minute workout last week, and then there was like a 15-minute one, and then like an 8 minute one or whatever. So they're really, really short. I actually love cardio though. I really love how it just gets your heart rate going, gets your brain in like this different spot. And I think that's the other reason why I like CrossFit, except for I just feel so goofy trying to lift heavy weight overhead that I can't do yet. Um, but I don't have a lot of cardio in my program right now.
Must be nice. I'm just gonna. That's all I can respond to. It must be nice. That's. I mean, yeah, that's what I guess. But you're talking about, a lot of things that I had problems with when I was working out is knowing the difference between pain and injury, and I always struggled with that my entire life. Where I have played through injuries that I shouldn't have, and it might have just gotten worse. But especially when working out, that's happened too. Where like, yeah, if I tore something in my leg or something like that, I might be the guy that then tries to go do squats, right after that. Do you ever struggle with that? Because I've found that, especially in the bodybuilding community, just because you're so focused on that end goal and you're so focused on that result, that a lot of times you can sort of ignore the pain until it might become a little too much.
100%.
Yeah.
Like,
And being a
um,
gymnast, and being that you were a gymnast too, which, good God, that's just a walking injury right there.
yeah, yeah, 100%. So pre-COVID, I had pulled a muscle doing squats. I'd pulled like my groin, but the injury always just went away. Like it just went away before, but this time it just didn't go away. And then the gyms closed. I worked out in our garage. Like even though I was like working out in the garage, it was cold in there, and like it just never really got better. And then when the gyms reopened again, I kind of like just started going again. It started hurting, but then I was like, okay, so I should probably go to physical therapy. Started going to physical therapy. Wow, I listened to him for like the first time ever from a doctor, and I started to get better. But it took a long time. So that was 2020, and then I didn't start squatting. Like this is actually the first time I've squatted heavy since then, and I just got a PR for my squats for 200 pounds. And before it was 195, but that was that was COVID. Um, and I like pushed through that injury the whole time. And when you're competing, you have to like you want to bring your best to the stage, but if you have like all these injuries or these nagging pains, it's hard, but you still want to go back on stage. And oh, so I've definitely like trained through things. I think that now I'm like a little bit older. I'm like, is it really worth it to like do that? Like to be constantly in pain all the time. So I really try to be a little bit more mindful of that. It's hard, like when you want to just get out there and just do it, but done it a million times. Done it a million times. I don't recommend it, but
Absolutely. And I mean, one of the things that I also appreciate about your journey too is that you do this naturally too, and it's, you know, it's a rarity, especially as you get into the pro level of this sport. And has that been ever hard for you to sort of deal with the temptation, I'd say, of doing stuff? Because there's always going to be temptation out there. I mean, even being a college athlete, I was tempted to do, I didn't do anything myself, but I was tempted because there were some teammates that were doing some stuff. But like, how do you deal with that temptation?
I think the hardest part was, um, like, I guess, like, as far as, like, dealing with it, I think, again, like, I just decided that, like, that's not gonna be the route that I'm gonna take, and then, again, once you decide something, that's not what you're gonna do, um, it's not healthy for
Yeah.
women, it'll jack you up for sure, and that's not something that I wanted, and I think, what if one day, like, myself or one of the other girls in the fitness category that was natural won? Like, that'd be dope. Like,
Yeah.
up against maybe a bunch of girls. Like, I think in the Olympia this last year, about half the field, half were natural and half were not, which is pretty cool for the fitness category.
Oh, the fitness category.
Okay.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I thought if you were
Yeah.
saying everyone, I was gonna be like, Corinne, you're very
Oh,
gullible.
Doug, you're a little naive, which I am. But I think I want to say, like, for fitness, there were quite a few of us that were natural, and we were like, cool, this
Yeah.
is awesome. And to be able to represent on, like, such a big stage like that. Like, one of the other girls, Andrea Glass, she had like somebody posted a reel of her, and a girl had asked, like, this girl must be natural. She's smaller, she's beautiful. And a couple of us commented on, like, damn right she's
Yeah.
natural. Like, yeah. So I don't really have any, like, temptation to do it. Like, sometimes, like, I know that last year, in some of the competitions, it was like, how would I ever win? Like, when they just want you to be, like, bigger, and I'm not going to do that. And this person clearly does stuff.
Mhm.
So that's the only time when it really is frustrating. But I was actually just thinking about this today. I was like, people are going to do what they're going to do. And I think this also comes with, like, maturity, but at the end of the day, you're the person that you go to bed with at night, and you have to be happy with you. And in bodybuilding, as much as, like, somebody wants to, like, win and be the best, like, you can win every day in this sport if you're being a little bit better than you were yesterday, or if this competition is better than your last competition. And it's so subjective. Like, it really depends on who shows up. And yeah, I don't know. I have a couple of girls that I know that do it, and I just, like, you can do it. I love you, but, like, it's not for me. It's
That's
not for
my
me.
approach 100%. It's like I could care less with you. The only time that it gets me is when people lie about not doing it.
Oh
And
yeah,
then they like say like, "Oh, buy my stuff then cuz you can look just like me." And you're just like, "We can see the gills on your neck basically then." So it's like
yeah,
come on, guys. So that's the only
yeah.
time that I get into it. But otherwise for me it's like, yeah, you still got to put the work in, you still got to do it, but yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. And I mean, we got to, as we get closer to wrapping up things here, I got to ask just a few more Korean questions cuz it's always been fascinating. What's been the most fascinating part about moving to Korea for you? What has been the one thing about just the culture, just the place in general that you've just found to be fascinating?
Um. Okay, I don't feel like this is, like, a good fascinating thing, but it totally, like, blew my mind. So everyone always talks about, like, the pollution over here, but I was like, I don't really think that's going to be have an effect on me. But oh my gosh, like, the pollution is terrible. Like, I I just was like, ah, like, people
Why do
are
you
wearing
think wearing
masks.
masks for them wasn't a big deal during COVID?
Yeah, well, see,
Yeah.
exactly. And I never thought I would be someone that wore my mask outside, but there have been several times where I wear my mask outside. Like, you literally feel like trash is being absorbed into your pores. And it's like, oh, no wonder why my face is breaking out more. So that has been one thing that has been, like, surprising about, like, Korea in general. But I think, like, the best thing so far, and we haven't done, like, a lot of, like, of traveling around yet, but, like, when you go to some of the places, it's like these buildings that just have writing that I can't read at all. But there's, like, stuff, like, going on everywhere, and it just seems like there's a lot of, like, good energy about people. Like, they like to work here. They're very, like, active in their life, and I just feel like I just feel like in general it has a way more positive energy from like where we were before. And that's fun, that's exciting. I can't wait till the weather starts to warm up a little bit. It has started to, because I know there's like beaches and places that we can go and hikes that we can go on. We just have to make sure we do it before the summertime when it's so stinking hot that we don't want to do anything.
And this is also something that I think, I mean, I just thought of this question myself, but when you are going to a new place, what do you try to do on how to meet people? Like, how do you approach that? Because honestly, for me, after high school and college, that was like the worst 2 weeks of my life, just getting used to like meeting people again and doing that. So I can remember that. So I can't imagine like going to a whole different country. How have you, how do you, I mean, I know you said like you're a little bit more of a private person. You don't really, do that much, but like in the times that you do talk to people, like, how do you approach that? Because for me, I'm one of those people where, believe it or not, as open as I seem here, like a lot of people, like, you have to talk to me first. Now, 5 seconds after you start the conversation, you realize the mistake that you've made when just the wall just opens and then the flood just comes open. You're like, oh my God, I should never start talking to this person. But for me, that's just me. So how do you deal with that?
Oh, it's so funny. I'm the same way
Yeah.
actually. So I wasn't like that when I was younger. But now, I do like to keep a little bit more to myself. What's really cool about the military is that they know that this is a challenge to like meet people. So there's lots of like different like groups or clubs and stuff that you can get involved in, but like you have to take the initiative to actually do it. So that was actually one of the reasons why I got started with CrossFit, and I've been like super curious about it. Um, and just like learning some of the stuff, going like almost always everything that I want to change starts in the gym. Like whether it's my confidence, how I'm talking to myself, meeting people, like all the people that I've met have only been from the gym. So sometimes that's like negative, not like negative, but like if you want to have like a more like well-rounded like circle and only everybody you know is into the gym, um, that's a little bit hard. But like you meet people who aren't as like into working out and everything there. They're just kind of there because they're there. And I've met a few people that way, and you just kind of you have to take action to
Mhm.
meet people just like you do with anything else. Like the couple that we met at New Year's, my husband and I, like the first couple that both of us genuinely enjoy. I told them the other day, I was like, you guys are like so nice. Like, and just by like doing that, like you make like connections, and I might be going to coffee with her on Friday, but it is hard, and you just get yourself out there and you just do it.
Okay, so how much does coffee impact your life when it comes to working out? Because for me, unfortunately, I am so hyper enough already that, like, if I were to drink coffee, my head would explode. But how important is coffee in your life?
I would say about 5 weeks ago, very important. But I did at the beginning of February. I was like, all right, I'm not doing any caffeine for a week. Yeah, I am drinking. I was drinking way too much coffee in the morning. Then I'd have pre-workout, and then I'd probably have a coffee in the afternoon, or maybe an energy drink that I definitely didn't need. I have way too much energy without it, anyways. And I was like very anxious all the
Mhm.
time. So I decided to do that. First, like 3 days really sucked. I did not expect myself to have headaches or anything like that. But I must have been doing it, doing quite a lot of caffeine. So I try not to rely on coffee as much anymore. Sometimes I'll have like a full strength cup, but normally I do like either half and half or just decaf coffee, or this other stuff that I found called like Dandy Blend. It's called
Mhm.
like it's like dandelion root
Yep.
and hickory root. Yeah. So I like that, but I'm trying not to be like as reliant on things that we probably actually don't need. Like it's stuff that we just enjoy. And that's okay. But I just was overloading it way too much. So um I don't rely on it as much, but I do think that like having a little bit of like that stimulant is great for like when you go in and work out, because sometimes it does add a little bit of longevity to your workout. Um, so there's definitely benefits to it, and there's nothing wrong with it.
And I mean, having a coach that is on the other side of the planet as well, how does that work communicating wise? Because what is it like it's got to be like a 10 or 11 hour time difference for you. How does that work out?
Yeah, really, it works really well. We mostly communicate through like WhatsApp
Okay.
and email. Um, and Yeah, so it's really cool. So when I like send her a message in the evening, she's like just waking up so she can like see it. So normally like she gets back to me like within 24 hours, which is fine. And since we just do like check-ins through emails, everything's been pretty easy. And then it's always a treat like if I end up being in her country or vice versa to see her because I just like her. She's awesome.
Yeah, Kate Arrington is her coach. Everyone, I mean, she has a great YouTube channel as well. Everyone, go and follow that. And she's another guest I've really wanted to get on. I mean, these are two questions I'm going to ask you every single time I have you on the podcast, regardless of how many times. The first one, because we'll see if your answers have changed from the last time. The first one, if you could change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
Oh my God, I remember you asked me this last time. I wish that once you became like a pro, there was like a way, like not like a salary, but like there was a way that guaranteed like some payment for
Yes.
like being there. And it doesn't have to be like a massive payment, but like we pay to go to the shows, like we pay to like do everything to get done to us and to like tans and all that kind of stuff. And then we pay for our membership. And not a whole lot changes from being in the NPC. Like you have to pay for your competitions and that and all that other stuff. So the only thing that we don't have to pay for is an actual competition fee, but you have to pay for everything else. And like I was listening to a girl the other day that that sponsors like amateur bikini girls, and I like great. I have nothing against what she's doing, but she was talking about how like, oh yeah, once you become pro, somebody almost always wants to pick you up. And I was like, there wasn't a damn person that wanted to pick me up. Like I actually had to go ask somebody to ask if I could come to their like little team workout thing that they were gonna have. And I've sent letters to a couple supplement companies. I've done like a couple of like things to try to like maybe put myself out there. And a lot of, I feel like everything is so influenced by social media now. It's like, oh, if you don't have like over 10,000 followers, nobody even wants to consider you. And I'm like, okay, cool. I got 1,600. So like, that's such like a bummer because even like someone can really represent like your company in a smaller fashion that can actually maybe be more influential than somebody who's bigger because somebody who's smaller maybe more like relatable or
Yep.
whatever. So I kind of wish there was something that was in place where it doesn't necessarily fund your whole entire career, but maybe just like something that maybe supplements it, like $100 a month or something. I like even something small like that because that would pay for at least part of your tan or maybe some of your meals or something like that. But there's nothing unless you're like like sponsored.
Oh, I said even more. Like my answer would be like a couple thousand, maybe a month, just like nothing for permanent. But like, yeah, it is ridiculous how because I went to my first bodybuilding show in this last July. It was just a local show, and I was always wondering like, how do these promoters make all this money? And then I looked at the ticket prices, and then I was like, oh yeah, that's how they make it. Yep.
Mhm.
Found out the hard way that way, but yeah, it's like yeah, if only the competitors could just get a share of that or something. Because yeah, it is ridiculous how this is the one sport where you pay more than you'll ever get out of it, really, unless you win the Olympia, basically, or
Yeah.
compete the Olympia and stuff like that, which is great. But yeah, I would definitely change that as well. And I mean, when we do have you on a year from now, where would you like to be at in your journey? Where would you like to be at? I mean, who knows? You might be in Antarctica next time we talk to you. I don't know with the way you're
I
traveling
might
around.
be.
You never know. But where would you like to be at just in your journey? Where would you like to be at in your life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved?
I think so. It's really, really hard. I will like to have said that I have competed again, whether that's bikini or fitness. I actually really would like to compete in fitness. But bikini's fun. So, just more, at like peace with where I'm at. Maybe like I've had like a full year of like recovery from like eating disorder stuff and hopefully helping like maybe a few other women just kind of get past that and helping just to develop their confidence. I don't really have like a plan on how that like works. I just have like my own things that have worked for me and I hope that like within a year from now I just am the same me but different if that makes sense. And I'm just kind of growing in myself. I don't have like a specific goal of like where I want to be as far as competitions go, but for myself, I want to be healthy, and I think that's always been like the goal. But I've always been kind of afraid, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. It's so weird, but yeah, not super exciting, but
Absolutely. Well, and I'm gonna ask you a question here, and if it's too much, you don't even have to answer it. I mean, I don't want to get too personal, but like if anyone, because I know some people out there listening probably do have eating disorders, or I know a lot of guests have suffered through it. But like, what's one piece of advice that you have for people to help? Maybe just I know, like you said, you've been a few. I remember how long was it, like 35 days, or it was a
yeah.
significant amount of time without having done anything. But what advice do you have for people just to get started on that? Because I know so many people, a lot of things that happen with these disorders and everything is that people feel alone a lot of the times, and they don't feel like no one really understands. And then the moment, like with I suffer from severe depression myself, so the moment that I realized like, hey, other people do it this as well, so it really helped me. But what advice do you have for people just to get started, like on helping themselves through it?
Um, I think like the first part, which is probably the hardest, is kind of like accept where you're at,
Mhm.
accept everything that has kind of happened, and start where you're at. Like I had been like I binged and purged all throughout like my prep for the Olympia. Like I was like, and I did like really cool stuff, but what can I do without this? Like you're living your life right now like in management mode, living with this condition, and you're still alive. And what can you do? Like how can your life be better without it? And I think like if you can ask that question, and maybe like if you're not like too far in the dark, because sometimes you are like I'm sure you understand like there it feels like there's no way out, but if you can like see that one thing and just kind of grasp onto that, then I think you can start to like make small steps forward, and then maybe try to get some help and talk to someone that you can trust. And I was so actually really nervous to tell my coach, but when I told her and she was like, oh, she was way more supportive than I thought she was going to be, and I just had way more confidence in what we were going to try to do. And it took like 3 weeks, and she made me be accountable. So I think like accept where you're at, and then find that little bit of like hope to hold on
Yeah.
to, and then talk to somebody.
Yeah, that is great. Well, I want to thank you for sharing all that stuff too, because I know it's not easy to share this type of stuff, especially for like, well, just with my personal stuff too. I know it's not, the easiest thing to do. So I really appreciate that. And we're gonna end this on a positive note now. Okay, so I
Okay.
want you to tell me, because like I've said, I love talking about the significant others on this podcast, as they are like the unsung heroes. So I want you to tell me real quickly just how much your husband does behind the scenes. How much I'm gonna butter him up for you. I'm gonna be like his best friend now. So like, what does he do, and how important is he to you, especially in this journey?
So he's so patient. And like I mentioned earlier, he always reminds me of like looking things at a different perspective. And I think like not only is he like my husband and he's patient, but I have seen his work ethic, and he works sometimes very long hours, and he does very well in what he does. And people are like in military they get like these coins or like certificates and stuff, and he'll like send me pictures of when he gets one. And he's just I feel like he's just always excelling and working hard and progressing. And I think that really kind of inspires me to, okay, like let's always be progressing. And just the mentality that I think he has is just like get the job done and be a good human being. So if I can like take that and use that as an example and do that too. But yeah, he's taught me that by just what he does with his work, and then by being patient and reminding me that things like, hey, it's all right if you have a french fry, you're not gonna turn into a balloon or anything, stuff like that, and making me laugh and respecting my decisions of when I want to go to bed earlier, or talking about like finances. He's just really let everything kind of be okay with what I want to do. And like we talk about it. So he's just he's just great.
Well, I'm just gonna let you know, as soon as I'm done talking to you, I'm heating up 2 corn dogs and some French fries right now. So
That's
I will be
right.
eating them in your honor. Then knowing that, like, hey, I'm not cruel enough to send you the photo of it, because I don't want to be that cruel where I'm just like, look at this great thing that I'm eating right now. But no, that is awesome. And yeah, like I've said, that support system is so important, and it's not talked about, I think, especially on social media as much as it should be, where just like the stuff that they have to deal with, and it's and the stuff that they put up with. I mean, they're almost as important. I'm not gonna say, because like they don't step on that stage, they don't do that. So let's be real here. But like they play an incredible factor in it and all the success. And I mean, I cannot thank you enough for coming back on the show and talking to us. You're one of my favorite guests to have on because, like I said, anytime I find a guest as talkative as me, it makes it for a much more enjoyable podcast. It's easy conversation. And again, everyone, go and check out her YouTube channel. I will leave the link down below. It's honestly, like, I'm not lying when I say, and I never really lie when I recommend stuff, but like I'm actually being like really serious with this. Where like I listened to your stuff like one night right before I went to bed. I just had it playing on my table right here, just listening to it, and I was like, I couldn't fall asleep until it ended. And it's really good. It's really informative. She goes over everything with her journeys, and like especially when she was prepping for the Arnold and talking about that old journey. It's very fascinating stuff. And keep doing it too, by the way. So you got to keep doing
Okay.
it. Yeah,
I gotta
it's really
keep
good
at
stuff.
it.
It's really good stuff. But again, thank you so much for coming back on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I hope that you get some rest.
Who knows? Again, I have Thursday and Friday off this week, so hopefully there's that. So I got that. So I got to get some. But then again, I do have a podcast on Thursday. But other than that, that's smooth sailing the rest of the week. But yeah, because so wait, what time is it right now? I have a podcast in 12 hours now that I got to do it again now, and then I got to go to work right after that. But hey, it's the life you got to live,
Tuesday there. It's Tuesday there. Got you.
10:58 on Tuesday. See, or 10:48. I've always found that to be the most fascinating thing, just how it's a day ahead of time there. I've always made the joke, oh, give me some stock advice then, because so I can know a day ahead of time and stuff. But that's always that's just crazy. But again, thank you so much. I really enjoy it. I know we could keep talking for another 10 hours right now, everyone, but I'm gonna be honest, I need some rest right now. But again,
Yeah, get some
thank you
rest.
so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.